I know our next guest can appreciate this because he is incredibly versatile, whether it's baseball, and I know that he grew up with that, and he does it still, does a little golf, best known for hoops, incredibly witty, incredibly versatile, as I said. You know, Teak, we mentioned that's Ernie Johnson. We mentioned the injury to Tristan Thompson, the thumb. Now, Ernie, I could be wrong, but I almost feel like a lot of the Iron Man streaks end as a result of a thumb injury. Steve Garvey, years ago on the plate, I believe it was Pascual Perez. I believe it was the Braves. I think also maybe Michael Cage. Here's a throwback name for you, the big man. I feel like he hurt his thumb. But anyway, I'm starting to ramble. Ernie, how are you, buddy? What's going on?
I missed a show a couple of weeks ago with a bad thumb. So I can certainly relate. Guys, how are we doing this morning?
Not as good as you. I got to tell you, honestly, as I've teased your appearance on the show, and I watch you all the time, I think what you guys do on TNT, and I've seen behind the scenes where you say it's unscripted, and I know that you have to be prepared, but the other guys, you know, the bell rings and you just let them out of the cage and they go bonkers. I think it is the best combination of real information. You don't even feel like you work in doing that show, do you?
No, the work comes in the preparation for the show and in kind of the daily keeping up with the league. I mean, doing the show itself is nothing but fun. I mean, you know, when you sit down and watch a game with Chuck and Kenny and Shaq, I mean that's pretty fun. And again, the way we handle that show with the producers and I, you know, we're in the production meeting, but those guys aren't allowed in. We don't want them to know what's coming up next or what we've got up our sleeve. And so, you know, it's part that and it's part analysis of the game from three guys who have been in every conceivable situation you can be in a basketball game. And I think, you know, what's made it fun, I think, you know, when Charles joined the cast around 2001, you know, he kind of changed the landscape of the sports studio show by saying you don't have to just talk about the game, and we've kind of taken that to heart over the last nearly 20 years.
Ernie, I'm looking through the release about your book, Unscripted: The Unpredictable Moments That Make Life Extraordinary. And I didn't realize, I knew your father was a broadcaster. I didn't realize that he was a Braves player as well. He's a baseball player. And so you've been around sports.
57, man.
Yeah, man, you've been around sports forever. How is that crafted? I mean, in Legends of Sports, obviously, with Hank Aaron down there, how's that crafted your approach to doing your job now, especially with, you know, the knuckleheads that BT's talking about on set? Because there is an approachability to your show, and it starts, obviously, with you.
Well, you know, when I was growing up, and my one regret, I think, guys, is that I wasn't our firstborn. I had two older sisters, so they really appreciated having the opportunity to see my dad play back in the 50s. When they won the World Series in '57, I was a year old, so my recollections are a little fuzzy. But I have seen DVDs and old film of my dad pitching in the series. But it was, I mean, that's a dream childhood when you're tagging along with your dad to the ballpark. I mean, this is when his playing days were through, and he was the PR director of the Milwaukee Braves and then an announcer for the Atlanta Braves, and that's how I grew up. I was hanging up at the ballpark, watching him do his work, you know, watching BP and having Hank Aaron ask me how my little league team is doing, and it was kind of surreal stuff for a kid growing up that way. And so I think that kind of a background really made me, you know, I wanted to do what my dad did. I wanted to play Major League Baseball, and I took it as far as the University of Georgia, where I walked on as a freshman and was told to walk off as a sophomore. and then you're kind of like, okay, what are you going to do with your life here now that the dream is gone? And I was never really pressured into this line of work. It's just that it interested me enough to try the campus radio station at the University of Georgia, and then I kind of fell in love with it.
You know, as I'm listening to this, Ernie, and I'm a former but forever frustrated former mid-major Division I baseball player, so I get it. When you know in your heart you're not good enough, but you love,
exactly.
You know what I mean? But if you loved it so much, and I certainly don't doubt your passion for it, but why didn't you go to like an NAIA school or a lower? I mean, you're shooting for the stars. Georgia's pretty good. I mean, you could have gone so.
There. And you know, I walked on, and I made that team. We won the division.
But then they said get lost.
Yeah, but then a new coach came in and was like, here are all his recruits.
Oh, okay.
And,
okay.
And it was, and I remember the speech he gave me. You know, Ernie, we just don't have the number of uniforms for all the quality individuals we have out here. In other words, you're not good enough, and that's it. And because you know what, I knew deep down inside that I could stay in this game for another 15 years and I still wouldn't be able to hit the curveball or catch up to the 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yes.
And so I think there comes a realization that you say, okay, now let's get serious about what you're going to do with your life. And originally I'd said I'll be an English teacher and a baseball coach. And then I said, well, it's actually more fun getting into games for free and talking about them. So let's go that route.
It's funny you say that. I thought about becoming a teacher myself with that as my focus. That's a pretty cool story. Ernie Johnson with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio. Now, obviously, your writing skills, if you wanted to be an English teacher, I'm sure the syntax in the book is okay. I mean, there's not too many stumbles here, Ernie. The book is getting a lot of great pub. It's called Unscripted, and I would imagine that you probably learned things about yourself that you may have forgotten or had buried for whatever reason. I mean, what was most interesting to you about the book in writing this?
Well, since it was a new venture for me, and again, I've always loved to write, and I think that's part of what you hone while you're doing this and moving up from Macon, Georgia to Spartanburg, South Carolina to Atlanta, in the media, is that you got to be able to tell a story. You got to be able to produce and edit and write stories for TV, and so now I was going to see how that translated into actually writing a book. And the thing about Unscripted, it describes the show we do, but it also describes what our family's been through. And I think a lot of folks kind of got a window into that when ESPN did a story on us on their E60 program, and talked about the fact that we'd adopted 4 of our 6 kids. We have a boy who's 28 years old now with muscular dystrophy, and what it's like to live with a child who's got a fatal disease, and in my own cancer battle back in 2003 to 2006, and the relationship that I have with my dad, and how faith plays into all this. I mean, there were a lot of layers, and it was really just a situation of laying out how I wanted the book to look, and then a lot of late nights and a lot of early mornings where I would just dive in. And it was pretty cathartic. It was pretty emotional. It was pretty exhilarating and draining, all those things, because I was thinking, especially when I'm writing about my dad. I mean, he was the best man at my wedding. He was my best friend in the world, and it was, some of that was difficult, but it was as rewarding as I could have possibly thought it could be.
No, I think when I did a book right after I finished playing football, and I didn't get deep into my life, but it's something that makes you think about your life. Right, sometimes you don't ever stop and think about your own life because you're too busy, obviously, living it. And it's interesting. Samter just said to me in my ear while you were talking, he's like, "Man, I don't realize how velvety Ernie's voice is, man. You could do like quiet storm radio at night, like you know what I mean?"
Here's part of the deal is I've been on this tour now for 3 days, and you get up at the car this morning was 4:00. At LaGuardia to go to LaGuardia and then fly here to Dallas, and so that I think it's a function of that my pipes are pretty good today, fellas, and as long as they last.
Yeah, right.
I think about like why we do what we do, and obviously when you're an athlete, it's I want to win a championship, and then when you get in a broadcast, like, why do you do what you do? How do you want people to think about you as they read this book, and when they finish with it? How do you want to be remembered from this description of your life?
Well, and it's the thing. It's not that I'm hung up on how you think of me or my family. I think it just kind of gives you a glimpse at how we navigate life and how look, these unscripted moments that come in, you have to embrace them and not run from them. I mean, I was trying to live my life according to the script. It was, okay, I've got a great wife, I've got a great job, we've got a boy and a girl. And then the unscripted came along the day my wife said, I think we need to adopt a child out of Romania back in 1991.
Pass the salt, ma'am. Right? Yeah, you having dinner. Pass the salt after that statement, right?
No, she actually said, as I walked in the door, you know what we need to do? And I said, chicken or fish, doesn't matter. And she's like, no, this is a little more important than that. And then when you see your son diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, and there's no cure for that, then it's okay. How are we going to do life now? And when a doctor looks at me and says it's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, these are things that are unscripted. How are you going to deal with those? And what I've found through the years is that those unscripted moments are what define you. They lead to these magical moments that make your life extraordinary. The people that I've met because of our situation, the way I've seen my son in the wheelchair impact an entire community. Those are the things that just resonate with you, and that's what I tried to put down, into words. And I think, what I'm trying to just say is, we're living in kind of a crazy time when everybody's at each other. It's kind of like confrontational. And man, if we can just take a second, reach out to somebody else, think about somebody else instead of ourselves, then I think that's a major step in kind of making things better just on a daily basis.
I'll tell you this, Ernie, and we have to run it. And we're going to tweet this out for you. The name of the book is called Unscripted. I can listen. I mean, I majored in journalism. I can give you 15 reasons why I think you're as good as you are, how you transition from the nuttiness on the show to a serious topic and the highlights. What I think is your best quality, and I think that everybody that's heard this, and I did see the story on ESPN. I did not know that about you, saw it until I saw that. I think what Ernie Johnson does best is that you project goodness, wholesomeness. It's real. You're a good man, and America's gotten to know you very well, and I think that this book is just another example that you are doing it the right way, my man, and I mean that to you. So God bless with that. Yeah, and smack Barkley gets a little wacky. I mean, keep doing
you guys are very kind. I appreciate the kind words. I'll say hey to all those guys for you, and I'll say hello to Big Shaq too.
Thank you.
Because all he's about is Ernie. I hope you're booked.
Ernie, we appreciate you, man.
Thank you, pal.
Good luck. We'll talk to you soon. See you down the line.
He's a good man right there. There you go.